Let him speak.
I am interrupting, Jonathan.
Yeah,
I am
interrupting. You don't like it when he does it.
So I'm going to fact-check your lies. That's how it works, Jonathan.
Mehdi, you're not in a position to fact-check anything. You're a mouth for hire. You're a paid propagandist. Who are you to fact-check anything?
The viewers are fact-checking.
You are a mouth for hire with no moral tethering in the world. You're a mouthpiece for Hamas and for Qatari money. Who are you to fact-check anybody?
April 2025.
Mehdi, you are a paid mouth.
April 2025.
You're a paid mouth in a suit. Who are you to fact-check anybody?
April
Who are you to fact-check? You have no legal standing, you have no moral standing, you have no factual standing, Mehdi.
April 2025.
The last time you visited anywhere near a war zone was maybe 20 years ago.
You realize nobody can understand.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Truth Review. I'm Hayes, and this is an older clip, but it's worth breaking down carefully because there are specific documented facts here that need proper context. Mehdi Hasan and IDF spokesman Jonathan Conricus got into an intense exchange over a double-tap strike on Nasser Hospital that killed 5 journalists. Conricus called it a tragic mistake involving mistaken identification of a camera as Hamas equipment. Mehdi countered with specific documented sourcing, including Reuters confirming the camera belonged to them, not Hamas, and Israeli media outlet 972 reporting that double-tap strikes have become standard operating procedure. Hit subscribe because Truth Review checks the sourcing on every claim, even the ones that get lost in the shouting. Now let's get into it.
He wants this war to continue for his own reasons, for the ideological reasons of his cabinet allies. And the military, the Israeli military has now come to its senses saying, this is not helping. This is the same Israeli military that has committed multiple war crimes. I mean, Jonathan talked earlier about, what the purpose of combat is. He said he was a proud IDF man. He's proudly part of a military that last week bombed a hospital not once, but twice. A double tap strike, according to CNN, triple tap strike, killing emergency responders, journalists, aid workers in front of our eyes. That is his glorious military. It's an Israeli military which, according to Dr. Nick Maynard, Piers, who you know, British doctor, I interviewed him last month, he said he treated Palestinian teenagers in his hospital in Gaza over the summer who were shot in the testicles, multiple children shot in the testicles by Jonathan's military, the same military that killed 15 paramedics in April, and then just buried them with their ambulances in the sand. They were buried in the sand by the Israeli military in April. They lied, the Israelis. They said, the lights were off. We didn't know who they were. Hamas were firing. Turned out all to be a lie. You know what the Israelis did, Piers? They fired the deputy commander. That's it. Nobody went to prison. No one was charged. They murdered 15 people. That's the military that Jonathan's come to defend. The most immoral military right now in the world that is bombing hospitals in front of our eyes.
Jonathan?
Yeah, it's it's various levels of ridiculous. But listen, Mehdi, there's been a job opening. Israel finally got rid of Abu Ubaidah, a very prolific and well-to-do Hamas spokesperson.
You've really got to get better with your Hamas propaganda. You're a racist,
language, small man.
Genocidal, war criminal.
Man.
You support war criminals. Well, you're trying to put a target on me? Are you and Elon Levy trying to put a target on me? Are you trying to put a target on me? You keep saying I'm Hamas, and you support killing Hamas.
You've done it with Elon, and it won't work with me. Little Mehdi, you've done that shtick with Elon. It doesn't impress me. But I'm telling you is that if you improve your Arabic just a bit,
you keep saying I'm Hamas based on nothing.
If you improve your Arabic just a bit, I think you are well on track to become a very prolific spokesperson for Hamas.
Your troops engaged in sexual violence against Palestinian women.
Abu Ubaidah.
You're being investigated in the International Criminal Court.
Touting
you are part of an army
propaganda lies.
that is committing genocide, Jonathan.
Mehdi, you are touting Hamas's propaganda lies. You are regurgitating things from April and from September.
The genocidal Israeli military.
Let me jump in. Jonathan, let me jump in, please.
Israeli military.
All right.
And now you want to kill every journalist that speaks out against you.
Yeah, Jonathan.
You killed 5 journalists last week.
Jonathan, on that,
but I think you would do an excellent job of replacing Abu Ubaidah.
Your military killed 5 journalists.
Let me ask a question, please.
And you're doing a great job. And you're doing a great job as Julius Streicher.
All right, let me ask a question because nobody can hear either of you. Nobody can hear either of you.
That's how history will remember you.
Let me ask you, Jonathan. Jonathan, about the incident. Jonathan, let me speak. About the incident that Mehdi's alluding to.
He doesn't want to talk about the hospital.
I'm just about to ask him about the hospital. If you let me do my job. Let me please ask you a question and do my job. So, Jonathan, the incident that Mehdi is alluding to, the double tap attack on a hospital which killed 5 journalists. This takes the total of journalists to over 200. There are now journalists all over the world who are protesting about this. People from CNN, from Reuters, from AP, from every serious news organization in the world, saying that there is a mini genocide going on with actual journalists in Gaza, and that the only reason for this, the deliberate systematic attacks on journalists, is because Israel does not want people reporting on what is actually happening there. I know you agree with me, because you said it many times, that Israel should allow the international media in to do their jobs. But so far, they're not doing that. They're only allowing in certain friendly journalists embedded with the IDF to report what they want them to report. But until there is free, unfettered access of journalists into that region to report on this stuff, there is a belief that Israel is going about now deliberately or systematically killing Palestinian journalists to silence them. What is your response to that?
Yeah, that belief is wrong, and I have a few things to say. First, about the horrible, tragic mistake at Nasser Hospital. That is not what I envision in terms of Israeli operations. That is a tactical mistake by forces on the ground that saw a camera on top of a building, assessed that the camera was operated by Hamas, because Hamas has been operating cameras from all civilian buildings, including from hospitals, in order to monitor the troop movement of Israeli troops and then to detonate IEDs or otherwise to direct combat activity against Israeli troops. And that is why when Israeli troops saw that camera and other activity on top of that building, they engaged. Regretfully, 5 journalists, some of them working for international media outlets, were killed. That is not a desired outcome. That is a mistake, and that should not happen on the battlefield. Full stop. 6 terrorists were also killed in that attack. When I spoke with 6 Hamas known operatives were killed. When I spoke with people in the IDF, my questions were actually about the second strike, which we saw live on an Arabic network, which I agree looks horrible, should not happen, and is something that I'm waiting for the IDF to investigate and to present findings and to say this is why the mistake happened and these are the steps that we have taken in order to rectify it. And I believe that the IDF will do that. And I believe that this is not what the IDF was seeking to achieve, because it was very clearly aid workers and others that were trying to rescue people that were wounded from the first engagement. So this was not intentional. This was a battlefield mistake in a chaotic or very difficult combat environment of troops that are under fire from civilian buildings where the enemy uses hospitals and schools and mosques and houses in order to fire from. This is the reality in Gaza made by Hamas, which we many times gloss over. No, as I said, they were from that. But first of all, Hamas has fired from the Nasser hospital several times in the past, and Hamas has been using cameras from various buildings, mosques, schools, and hospitals in Khan Yunis, in Gaza, in Rafah, in all of the Palestinian villages and cities. And that is why the IDF thought that the cameras that they saw were linked to Hamas. But I'm saying it very clearly, that was not the intended outcome.
Mehdi?
Can I respond, Piers? Yeah. So on this hospital attack, let's just be very clear here, because so much gaslighting going on here. First of all, I'm old enough to remember October 2023 when the world went mad to suggest that Israel would ever attack a hospital. We were told for months Israel would never attack a hospital. Now they proudly attack a hospital and try and justify it with nonsense justifications. We attacked it because there was a Hamas camera on the roof. First of all, it wasn't a Hamas camera. It was a Reuters camera. Reuters already gave the Israeli military their positions. There were no Hamas cameras on the roof. It's a ridiculous new phase of Israeli propaganda to say it was a Hamas camera justifies killing 20 people, which was insane. Okay, let me speak. If you stop interrupting, then I'll deal with that lie. You already said it. You said there was
Let Mehdi respond, please.
You're lying.
Hamas terrorists.
Let Mehdi respond.
I never get through a single answer on this show.
Let Mehdi respond.
6 Hamas operatives were not killed. You claim they were killed. No evidence has been provided to the international media that there were 6 Hamas operatives there. In fact, the 6 photos that were released here, 2 of them were killed the day before. One of them was a well-known local firefighter who Israel already dealt with. They were not 6 Hamas operatives who were killed in that strike. As for it being a mistake, how can it be a mistake, Piers, when it was a double? Can you shut up so I can finish a sentence?
It doesn't make it true.
Piers, am I going to get to speak on this show?
Jonathan, he let you speak. Let him speak.
I mean, if you're going to lie and you're going to expect me to
you
sit
both
there
accuse each other of lying all the time. So let Mehdi respond, then you can respond
back. And the world
back.
can see that... Jonathan, we're on Piers Morgan. I get to speak. We're not in Gaza. You don't get to kill me as a journalist. I get to speak here and point out that the journalists were killed in a double-tap strike. There's no way you can call that a mistake.
The only thing you do in life is
He can't shut up, can he, Piers?
The only thing you do in life is lie and take money from the
I'm going to keep
Qataris
speaking and make my point. Like I said. All right, let me know, Piers, when I can speak.
Jonathan, please let him respond.
Because he won't shut up. I need to be able to make a point.
No one can understand you when you talk over each other.
6 Hamas operatives were not killed.
Mehdi, finish your point.
6 Hamas operatives were not killed. I barely started it. 6 Hamas operatives were not killed. Israel claims they were killed. It's been debunked. 20 people were killed, including 5 journalists. It couldn't have been a tragic mistake, as Jonathan claims, because it was a double-tap strike. The Israeli media have reported that the Israeli military did it deliberately. In Israel, in Hebrew, they're not saying it was accident. They said it was a coordinated attack. A double-tap strike. How do you explain a second strike 9 minutes later? There is no mistake. It's what Boko Haram, ISIS, Al-Qaeda do. It's deliberately to kill emergency responders. 972, an Israeli media organization, says it is now standard procedure for the Israeli military to do double-tap strikes. Last summer in Mawasi, the New York Times has video of the Israelis doing a double-tap strike on Palestinian paramedics. You know what Israel said at the time, Piers? We will investigate this incident. Guess what? A year later, no investigation. No one was charged. No one was punished. They always say this to gullible interviewers in the West. Well, we're investigating this mistake. Not a single Israeli soldier has gone to prison for killing anyone in Gaza since October 2023. You'll remember, Piers, I said that to Alan Dershowitz on your show. I remain to be fact-checked. It is true. Nobody went to prison for killing 15 paramedics in April. Nobody went to prison for the Mawasi double attack last summer. No one will go to prison for killing 20 people in this hospital. Jonathan and his military love to do war crimes, and no one holds them to account.
Jonathan?
Nonsense. Israeli officers have been removed from their positions.
Jonathan, who's gone to prison? Who's gone to prison?
Israeli
you said
soldiers,
nonsense, Jonathan. Who's gone to prison? I was right.
I said nonsense,
wrong.
which is everything that comes from your mouth is either Hamas propaganda or
Mehdi, let him answer.
And
name the person who's gone to prison.
And
he's not answering. Name the person who's gone to prison. You and Alan Dershowitz cannot name
I can't understand what he's saying.
Israeli soldier who has gone to prison.
Mehdi,
let me hear him what he has to say.
IDF soldiers have been disciplined and sent to military prison for misconduct, and they are still open investigations.
Not a single Israeli soldier has gone to prison for killing a Palestinian since October 2023.
By the military advocate general about
none.
They have. I don't remember the name, but I know
you're lying.
Of several
Anyone
Israeli
can Google
soldiers.
it right now.
No,
Jonathan Conricus is lying to you.
You can Google.
In April, 15 Palestinians
you can
were
say
killed.
Whatever you want. You can continue
no one went to prison.
To make
it's
up
a fact.
half
Google
truths
it. Sky News has the story.
And sprinkle lies as much as you want.
We're on YouTube, Jonathan.
I know
People
for
can
a fact,
Google that you're lying right now.
I know for a fact that Israeli soldiers have been disciplined.
April 2025, 15 paramedics killed. Not a single soldier was charged.
About being interrupted.
Mehdi, you don't like it when he interrupts you, Mehdi. Let him speak.
I am interrupting, Jonathan.
Yeah, but let him speak. You don't like it when he does it.
So I'm going to fact-check your lies. That's how it works, Jonathan.
Mehdi, you're not in a position to fact-check anything. You're a mouth for hire. You're a paid propagandist. Who are you to fact-check anything?
The viewers are fact-checking.
You are a mouth for hire with no moral tethering in the world. You're a mouthpiece for Hamas and for Qatari money. Who are you to fact-check anybody?
April 2025.
Mehdi, you are a paid mouth.
April 2025.
You're a paid mouth in a suit. Who are you to fact-check anybody? Who are you to fact-check? You have no legal standing, you have no moral standing, you have no factual standing, Mehdi.
April 2025.
The last time you visited anywhere near a war zone was maybe 20 years ago.
You realise nobody can understand the word you guys are saying, right? I mean, you do realise that.
Who are you to fact-check,
They can see.
Do you realise when you both talk at the same time, nobody can hear either of you? You realise that, right? I mean, we all understand.
You should have got him to stop.
Everybody understands that when you both talk at once, nobody hears you. So I don't understand why you can't just take it in turns.
You can both sides it, Piers, as you
both find the others interrupting.
Jonathan spent the entire
you both hate the other one interrupting you, then you both do it yourselves. Why do you try and practice what you preach to pair of you?
Be honest.
Huh?
Piers, who did all the interrupting for the first half of the show? Be honest.
I think if we actually add up now the number of interruptions, Mehdi, you're right up there with Jonathan.
Now, you don't get to start at the end. Well, you don't start at the end, Piers. I'm reacting,
even more than that, Mehdi. No, you're not reacting. You're instigating, and you are a
You just want to
mouth that
silence
is
me,
being paid
like you
by
silence every
various
journalist
sources.
in Gaza. You kill journalists to silence them. You can't handle people. You can't handle the fact that you can't kill me.
Sharia. You represent a hatred of Western society.
Right, Jonathan, let me ask you a question.
Dubious
I am Western, you racist.
Let me ask you a question, Jonathan. Let me ask you a question, Jonathan.
I am Western.
Let me ask Jonathan a question, please.
Let me ask a question, please.
Please. Otherwise, I'll just stop it. It's pointless.
Yeah.
Jonathan.
What a waste of time.
Jonathan, I want to ask you a question, Jonathan.
I thought I was coming on to debate John Spencer.
I'm listening.
Not this ridiculous war criminal.
Yeah, you're ridiculous, Mehdi. A small man far away from action who represents nothing.
But I'm not
That's
a war
what
criminal. You're the one who's in a military that's being investigated
No,
by the
and
International
neither am
Criminal
I.
Court and the International Court of Justice.
I'm
Okay.
a
Yes, you
former
are actually.
member
You're part
of
of
a
a military
that
that's being
actually stands for
investigated
something
at
and
the
defends
ICJ
something.
and the ICC.
Not just a mouth for hire.
You were a Julius Streicher
Not just a
propagandist for
mouth
the
for
Israeli
hire
military
that's
lying
paid
about
by
every
I don't
war
know
crime
whom to
committed.
slander Israel.
I'm going to leave it there, and you can carry on talking to each other. It's a bit pointless because no one can understand a word you're saying.
Let's break down what actually happened here, because underneath all the crosstalk, there are specific factual claims worth checking individually. Start with the camera dispute, because it's the foundation of the entire justification given for the strike. Kenrikas said Israeli forces identified a camera on the hospital roof, assessed it as Hamas equipment used to monitor troop movements, and engaged accordingly. Mehdi countered that the camera in question actually belonged to Reuters, and that Reuters had already shared their camera positions with the Israeli military in advance, a standard practice international news organizations use specifically to avoid being mistaken for combatant equipment. If that specific claim about Reuters having pre-shared their equipment location is accurate, and Reuters has previously confirmed operating cameras at that location for ongoing coverage, it directly undermines the stated justification for why the camera was treated as a legitimate military target in the first place. The double tap terminology deserves careful examination too, because it describes a specific and documented pattern rather than a single isolated incident. A double tap strike refers to a second strike following shortly after an initial one, timed specifically to target people who arrived to assist casualties from the first strike, which typically means emergency responders, medical personnel, and journalists covering the aftermath. Mehdi cited a 9-minute gap between the two strikes at Nasser Hospital and referenced reporting from 972 magazine, an Israeli media outlet, describing this as standard procedure rather than an isolated tactical error. He also referenced a separate documented incident from the previous summer in Mawasi, citing New York Times video coverage of a similar pattern involving Palestinian paramedics. If multiple independent incidents share this same specific pattern, and if Israeli media itself has reported it as standard procedure, that pattern is much harder to characterize as a series of unconnected mistakes. The accountability question is the one that deserves the most attention, because it's the most specific and most checkable claim made in the entire exchange. Mehdi stated directly that not a single Israeli soldier has been imprisoned for killing a Palestinian civilian since October 2023, and he named two specific incidents, the killing of 15 paramedics in April and the Mawasi double strike, asking directly who has been imprisoned for either. Kenrikas responded that IDF soldiers have been disciplined and sent to military prison for misconduct, but did not name a specific individual, specific case, or a specific sentence connected to either incident Mehdi raised. That's an important gap. General claims about disciplinary processes existing are not the same as evidence that accountability occurred in these two specific documented cases, and when a specific factual claim is met with a general assertion rather than a specific counterexample, that distinction matters. The 6 operatives claim is also worth checking on its own. Kenrikas stated that 6 Hamas operatives were killed alongside the journalists in the hospital strike. Mehdi challenged this directly, stating that of the 6 individuals identified in photos released afterward, at least one was a well-known local firefighter. And that verification of the other claimed Hamas affiliations has not been independently confirmed by neutral sources. When a claim about combatant identity is disputed this specifically, with a name profession attached to one of the individuals, that dispute deserves independent verification rather than being accepted or dismissed based on which side asserts it more forcefully. Subscribe to Truth Review. We separate the shouting from the sourcing, and we check every specific claim, from camera ownership to prison sentences to combatant identification, against what's actually verifiable.